Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Professional Roundtables with Arrows. It is such a privilege for us to have Zechariah Lee with us today, who is a friend and has been many years in the industry as an engineer. And today we're going to hear from his story of exploring his career, exploring the things that he is interested in, and turn that into very purposeful innovation. And but before we go into that, let me just tell you what Arrows Education do and how you can benefit from our services. If you can have slides up, um, Arrows Education, we are an education consultancy and agency. Our goal is to help you realize your dream of studying abroad. We have our service covering over 30 countries around the globe. We're working with over 2,500 higher education institutions and universities and colleges, offering thousands of courses in any fields that you may be interested in, from K-12 to PhD. We're happy to help you realize your dream of pursuing higher education in the countries and the field of your dream. We're also probably the most affordable support service that you can find in the market. We offer free consultation to all our clients and our students, and we just want to help you see where you can go with the things that you've been given, as well as the qualification that you've earned throughout your education, and we want to help you achieve higher. So if it is you can take this step towards your dream by visiting us on our website arrowstransactions.com, and put in your information into our form, along with your qualifications, certificates, and we will have a consultant reach out to you as soon as we can, to perhaps work with you through the entire process, and we'll be able to give you the latest information on how to get loans and maybe scholarships that can make your dream even closer. Alternatively, do visit us on our social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, on our YouTubes, which is Arrows Education, right? Look for us as Arrow Education, or reach out to us on our WhatsApp, and we will reach out to you as soon as we can. With this, I would love to invite Zechariah Lee to our show. Welcome to our Professional Roundtable. It's such a
Thank
privilege to
you.
have you today.
Thanks for having me. I'm very honored to be part of this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for saying yes, though. Like getting to know you and your amazing journey, and now you're based in Singapore and Johor, I believe, and you've been have in this industry for quite some years.
Mhm.
And so, would you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, what's your education pathway like, and what you're doing right now, who you're working for, etc.
Yeah, I graduated with a bachelor's degree in engineering back in 2014. I studied in National University of Singapore, and I was trained as an electrical engineer for my undergraduate years. So it has been slightly over 10 years that I've been working, and I have always been in this semiconductor industry. I would say I'm very blessed that somehow I ended up in this industry, and it has been quite exciting a journey, right? Because we have heard from the news. I believe most of us here are aware of the importance and the impact that this industry can bring. Geopolitical relationships, rivalries, technical conquering. Like this U.S. and China, and then how is it impacting Southeast Asia, and how is it impacting our economies and um, the big picture. So I never thought that I will be part of this when I graduated. So it has been pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, so you're the first one that we interviewed that actually pursue electrical engineering. Um, So what inspired you to want to pursue electrical engineering in US? And tell us a little bit more about electrical engineering, if you may. What can we expect if we are studying this in the university?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I think engineering as a whole, to me, it's a very challenging discipline to pursue, right? I remember when I was doing my undergrad studies, I have friends in the Faculty of Arts who is doing, design, who might be doing architecture. I'm not saying that it is not as demandful. It's just that engineering school by natural has a lot of exams. I remember having like 2 or 3 exams per week. That's like the norm over 4 years time. So it was very miserable. And why did I even wanted to get an engineering degree, right? I think, to be very honest, as an Asian growing up in this Asian culture, right? Our parents always wanted us to be doctors, lawyers, or engineers. And comparatively, I think engineering degree is a little cheaper, a little more attainable than the other two. And I grew up as a foreigner in Singapore. I wasn't born in Singaporean. So there were a lot of restrictions, and there's a very high requirement academically if you want to study medicine or law. So I think it was quite natural for me wanting to pursue an engineering degree. That's something like, it's probably the only thing I knew about back then. Yeah, and I think the fact that pursuing a degree is academically challenging and difficult, it kind of help us to shape our character.
Mm.
Like we will not be greenhouse flowers, right? Because you do face with these difficulties. You get slapped with 2 or 3 exams per week, and if you're not prepared enough and you're not um, like one moment you didn't know about it, and next you might get a very low score, and that will affect your GPA. So it's a very constant, demanding, and stressful environment, and in a way it shapes um, how we grow and what kind of person we become. So I'm quite thankful for um, that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true for engineering.
Hmm.
I come from personally coming from manufacturing engineering undergraduate study as well. Um, yeah, it's not probably not as demanding as the rest of the engineering like chemical or electrical or even mechanical engineering. It's a lot like for me, it's a bit easier, but it's no less a very demanding subject to pursue as well. Um, yeah, first of all, there's so much subjects to cover within just one field itself.
Yeah.
Like like my course is the only course they kind of have to take with something we call engineering economics and
Hmm.
engineering accountings. Two subjects that I never really expect to have to take as my engineering study. So I'm actually quite grateful, like you say, to be able to put under that pressure cooker, and
Yeah.
it like you say, it shapes you. Yeah, so thank you for that. So when you graduated from your university from NUS, which is a really prestigious university, by the way, it's actually on the list of my dream university to go to.
Oh.
Yeah, but unfortunately, yeah, my result isn't that's as good, and there's no scholarship available for me at the time. Um, but yeah, coming out of this university and with electrical engineering degree, um, where did that take you, and what kind of path did it take you and how did you arrive here today? Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, I think first of all, thank you for. I'm flattered, but reflecting my experience going through NUS, no doubt it's not exactly easy. But I also think it's not unattainable. I think with
Mm,
the right resources, understanding, just trying to understand how to get in and what set the right goals and plan for the ability to plan for that to happen. I think is attainable, especially in this part of the world, right? We're in Southeast Asia. I think for those who are stationed in Malaysia, um, it's something that's worthwhile for you to work towards too.
Mm,
I think NUS is quite strict in terms of the grading system, and it's very competitive as well. So I'm not too sure about Malaysia, but in Singapore, the degree are typically classified into different honor systems, right? You can graduate with a, especially engineering discipline, you can graduate with a first class honors. You get a second upper or second lower or third class honors, or you can graduate without an honors program. So there are a lot of big companies
mm,
who are big hirers in Singapore, and typically, um, if you want to become an engineer, typically they will look at. I think, to be fair, that's one of the things that they look at, right? So you need to have a relatively good result, and then it is more, the possibility is higher for you to get an interview. And of course, how do you present yourself? How do you communicate? Were you able to express yourself clearly? Were you able to capture what is the underlying question from the interviewer? All this. But I do think having a good education definitely opens up more doors. That you have more opportunities to interview with a lot of companies. And back in 2014, when I first graduated, I actually really wanted to get into oil and gas industry, because I think back then, I don't know if you remember, that's the industry that we often hear about with big bonuses, right? And naturally, that's what we work for. We want to have a rewarding career, and I always wanted to get to oil and gas. So I interviewed I submitted my resume to Shell, to Halliburton, FMC, this kind of big names in oil and gas industry, Keppel, offshore and marine as well. Uh, but I don't know. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I didn't really get a lot of opportunities. I think coming from electrical engineering background, there are some natural advantages. So when it comes to semiconductor, I think electrical engineering has a good understanding of the foundations and the basics and backgrounds. So I think it's more natural if you want to get into the semiconductor engineering, because majority of the engineers has similar backgrounds. Whereas if you want to do oil and gas, like, I think they are probably looking at more for those who has a chemical engineering degree, or someone who has a mechanical engineering degree, because of the pipes, all these instrumentations. Um, yeah, so I think the education is important, but equally important is how do you develop your communication, which is very important. I think today a lot of engineers find it challenging to express themselves, to
mm,
communicate very clearly. So I think that's something. If I were to reflect during my school days, not just we have to develop our core competencies,
mm.
we also have to spend a little time just to think about how do we communicate better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so amazing that you brought this up because last week this is exactly what we talked about last week. Like
Mhm.
a lot of times we get into university thinking that hey, I need to like focus on getting good marks and these core competencies and the rest of the things doesn't matter. And I remember Dr. Bossetti's advice for everyone is get out of your room. Don't stay in your room when you're not in class and go out
Exactly.
there, be active. Yeah, because you develop your communication skills like this. You develop soft skills that lecturers cannot give you in a lecture
Hmm.
hall.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important for and something to keep in mind for our audience, especially the young audience here, who is looking forward to a university life in your undergraduate study. And so yeah, this is what Aero Education can help you with. That we can give you advice on these things and help you look forward to a really amazing university life in the country of a dream. So reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you through that. And today you gave like the title that you have given is called a field service engineer.
Hmm.
So, what is a sales field service engineer? What do you actually do? Um, uh, and I think right now you're also a product manager right now. So you're like
Yeah.
slightly higher level in a service
Yeah.
team. And then, what led you there?
Yeah. I started in my current company, Applied Materials, as field service engineer, and
Mm,
currently I'm a product manager, overlooking the service products that we have developed for our customers. So field service engineer, like what the name suggests, we help our customers with the products that we have sold them, right? So the primary product that we manufacture is a machine that handles the wafers and deposit a certain kind of material onto the wafer, and eventually this is just one out of the many steps in a wafer manufacturing fab. So the phones that we use, the chips, the memories all comes from the wafers, and we sell the equipments that help our customers make the wafers. So companies like Intel, like TSMC, these are the manufacturing fabrication facilities that makes these chips. And all these equipments are very complicated. Typically, we have thousands of sensors in one of the equipment. It's very costly to purchase this equipment, and the customer's fabrication facility is primary majority of them are located in Taiwan. Singapore is a manufacturing hub for 3D non memory space.
Mm,
A lot is in Taiwan, in Korea, in the US. So it is very costly for companies like Micron, Intel to upkeep um, their facilities, right? So first of all, is the facility is all this running cost. The second thing is all this capital investment for them to purchase this equipment.
mm,
So our core uh, KPI is to make sure that our tool is available for the customer to use to have value adding steps to their wafers and make the end product so they can sell the wafer, right? And this equipment, like I mentioned, are very costly to purchase. So we want to make sure out of that 24 hours in a day, we want to make sure majority of the time that this tool can be productive.
mm,
And because the tool is very complex, we have 2,000 over sensors. There's very strict requirements on the process, and the whole manufacturing, semiconductor manufacturing process is very lengthy and sophisticated, right? So it is very important the for us to have field service engineers who knows what to do so that we keep our equipment at the most healthy status, right?
mm,
I think a good example I can think of is, for example, um, if so in Singapore, like taxi companies used to use Mercedes Benz, right, to run their fleet, and they charge a premium because they run good cars, right? So as a field service engineer, I mean the company operates purchase Mercedes, and they have drivers operate the cars, but they need someone to maintain their cars so that the car is always running and it doesn't have unexpected downtime, right? And which
mm,
will affect their business output. So we do our job so that we make sure that our equipment is at the top performance capability, and so that's where I started working with the tools. And as an engineer, I think it's very important that we build up our core competency, right? So if we need to know our products, we need to know how it functions. We need to have that experience of when things go wrong, what kind of data do we look into, and how do we come to that decision to replace a certain part, to do recalibration, to do teaching. So, and that help us to be able to resolve customers' problems quickly and more efficiently. And of course, as time goes by, you start to think about, is there anything else I can do? Can I add more value?
mm,
So today, what I do is I overlook a lot of this service contracts that we
mm,
have for customers in the region, in the Southeast Asian region, and how can we understand their problems, um, strategic problems that they may have, or very chronic issues. It's no longer like, oh, today my equipment is broken, I need someone help me to fix it. But we take a step back and we look at the entire fleet in the region, equipments that's running the same process. Is there a particular a chronic issue that keeps affecting this process and this kind of product? And is it because of part quality issue? Is it because of a process issue, right? And how can we, based on our experience and the assistance from our peers, how can we improve such a situation, and can we eliminate this issue? Can we improve the overall uptime
mm,
that make the overall cost ownership lower and creates more value to our customers. So um, I think it came quite naturally to me of this progression because as you get more experienced and if you are interested in how to maximize your value, uh, yeah, I think I'm pretty happy about what am I doing now.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds amazing though. Like, um, I think I'm putting myself in in the shoe of your customer, right? If I'm purchasing, let's say I'm purchasing a laptop, and if you're not just repairing my laptop when it's broken, but you're also even telling me from the start, like, hey, do this, and this is how you can prevent this from ever breaking down, then I can make more use out of the product that I purchased from you. And then this, I believe, totally adds a lot of values to your company, improve your company's reputation, and it's such an amazing and important role in the company. And so if any of our audience today are looking into engineering, sometimes it's not just, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering. It's not always that straightforward, especially in semiconductor industry. I think there is so much different areas that there is not one engineers that has the that has the overall knowledge of everything.
Yeah,
And there's also different application to your engineering skills that you attain from your university as well, and a lot more, I think, would come from your working experience as well. Yeah, I think engineering. Would you agree with me to say that engineering is it's a career that you kind of grow as your experience grows, as well as your value as an engineer? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, I think that's a very good illustration. I think, and I agree with what you have said, right? Because I think if we were to reflect about the things, that theories that we learn when we were doing our studies, those are definitely important. Those are like the theoretical foundations for us to build our skills upon.
Mm,
But when we started working, I don't know about you, but uh, I had that very strong feeling. Whatever we have learned, yes, it was good. It was a building block, a foundation that we have to use. But in reality, and depending on what industry and what particular job you are doing, you will require much more knowledge and know-how to be able to do your job well.
mm,
So education is really just laying a foundation for us. But how far do we go, and how well we use, how resourceful we are of putting these things together and make something innovative and make something new that creates value in our job role. I think those are the things that really differentiates individuals.
mm,
So what you learn is important, yes, but uh, it is more than just the knowledge that we learn, but it's the ability to innovate, the ability to combine things together and piece all these puzzles and then make something new. So engineering skills is important, communication still skills are important. Sports, all these people, networking, resourcefulness, all these are something that is easy to be overlooked. Yeah.
that's true. That's so true. Thank you for emphasizing that. And we've been emphasizing that to our
Hmm.
audience a lot. Like, yeah, education, it's a ticket there. I think it really
Yeah.
depends on your flexibility, your willingness to adapt, to learn, and to continue to press through even in the hardest time, even in your career.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, do well in your study. Strive to be as at the best that you can be. But yeah, don't let little failures keep you down. You can always find ways to do better. Yeah.
Yep.
um, yeah, and I mentioned about semiconductor being a really wide array, how do I put it, a very wide spectrum of industry. Like, there's so many different jobs that are crucial to the entire industry, that forms an entire process from the idea until our consumers. Yeah, and so as an industry, um, in semiconductor, what excites you the most about working in this industry? And yeah.
Well, there are a lot of things that are exciting about the semiconductor industry. I think especially today. Um, um, I don't even know where to start, right? Because when I joined back in 2014, I know nothing about it. I always thought semiconductor is a sunsetting industry. Like the golden era of mobile phones and PC personal computers was way over. In 2014 was like the crossing point. I think from 2010 to about 2014, around that period of time, we had smartphones, we had social media, right? So people start taking pictures, uh, and we have Internet of Thing, and suddenly the amount of data that's generated during that few years is much more manifold more than all this data is being generated like a decade ago, right?
Mm.
So the demand for semiconductor, the demand for memory, the demand for powerful chips was so much more, right? Like than
Yeah.
the 2 decades before. And because the industry has expanded so quickly, there was, I think we are constantly in demand of talents, engineering talents. And like
True.
you said, this industry is a huge ecosystem. We talk about material innovation. We talk about system engineering, like how do we ideate a product to deliver that material formation, right, on wafer. And if we are able to come up with a product that generates the material excellencies, how do we have a manufacturing strategy that we can scale, and we can manufacture in high volume our products, and then how do we have a supply chain that help us to source components worldwide, cost efficiently, and bring the right part at the right time to the right place. How do we reduce the cycle time and produce a product quickly enough to make commercial value? And how do we support these products worldwide, right? Because we have customers in Taiwan, in Korea, in US, in Singapore, in Malaysia. How do we strategize? How do we design our business so that we can support our customer here? And how do we capture all this value that we're generating? So it's not just electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, you have material science engineers. We need business people, we need planners, we need commodity managers. We use all this. So this thing itself, it's very exciting, right? It's not just very isolated into one kind of discipline. And also, if you look, I don't know if our audience follows the news today, the rivalry between China and the US, trying to get dominance in the technical world. Uh, the dominance in the semiconductor industry is so pivotal, right? The ability to manufacture next techno chips that can consume less power, that can generate more computer power per unit cost.
Hmm.
All this would translate to actual competitiveness in the whole economy, right? AI is starting to generate a lot of value. We all start to use ChatGPT in our homeworks, uh, but what is driving this is also the cost per calculation, right? When we give a command to ChatGPT, how much it costs to train that whole model, and like it has this whole chain of value behind a simple chip that we used to
Right.
think that it doesn't matter so much. And in today's electronics, anything that runs has electrons running through it needs some kind of control, right? Like, and power consumption has always been a big thing. We see the entire automobile industry being disrupted by the presence of EVs. And when it comes to EVs, how do we, control our motors? How do we monitor the health of the batteries? And all this has to do with semiconductor capabilities.
Mm.
Um, so I never thought it would be this exciting. To be honest, when I started working, and I was kind of sad that I didn't manage to get into oil and gas. I'm not saying oil and gas is not good, but I just feel this is beyond what I have imagined. Um, and yeah, so and this is a very creative space. It's very innovative. Uh, I don't know if you heard about the Moore's law,
Mm.
where the memory space kind of increase exponential doubles every other
Yeah.
year with every techno increase. So we are reaching the physical limits for
Mm,
that, right? So what's next? What are we gonna do? Is Moore's law gonna be broken, or are we gonna do new things, right?
mm,
I think I personally experienced where, just think as a house, right? We have a limited space of land, and how many rooms can we build with maybe 100 square meters, right? We can shrink
mm,
the size of the room to hold a memory one of zeros, right? Like to hold the electrons so that we create memories, right? And eventually, when the space is so small that we can no longer efficiently and reliably hold the status of the electron anymore, and what do we do? And then I myself went through that revolution of a plenary, just building like a single story houses to building multiple stories. That's the transition from plenary memory to 3D structures. And now we are talking about like how do we shrink the height of the house, and as we build higher and higher, then there are much more challenges, right? Like how do we make our materials more reliable? um, how do we increase the speed of access to different levels, right? Because if we used to stay in single story houses, right, like traveling from one room to another is just a shot away. But if we are living in a 100-story condominium, how do you communicate? How do you let the people upstairs know about what you are doing and what is your status are? So like, um, yeah, I think the material innovation and the challenges that we are facing, that we're dealing with, and the speed to market, um, and all this dominance will eventually affect, political powers.
mm,
Um, is going to reshape the academic industry and economical landscapes. I think all
mm,
this are really very closely tied to how this industry is being developed and where this industry is going. So I think the
mm,
whole thing put together is just, um, I think exciting is kind of an understatement.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I still remember yeah, like I said, like you say that during our time, I remember this so clearly. Everybody wants to be in oil and gas. Everybody wants to,
yeah,
dip their hand into oil and gas and work for a oil and gas company, and they really did pay big bucks.
hmm,
Like even working offshore. We I think among our own classmates as well, we talk about that. So it was really exciting, and then coming out, then the whole world kind of changed.
yeah,
And especially in Penang, you feel it, like I studied in USM, where it's situated in Penang. You just see like there's a lot more conversation about semiconductor. More and more
hmm,
companies are being built in the semiconductor industry, and then we realize, hey, now I'm stepping into a completely new era, or a new situation right now, that actually I may not have picked the right, engineering to speak for. Yeah, and you're right. I think semiconductor. I also feel like you. I also felt the same thing that you mentioned, right? Like it felt like a sunset back then, because I
yeah,
remember the time of Nokia. I don't know if
yeah,
you remember the time of Nokia,
yeah,
and it was like, okay, there's this is as much as we can make feature phones out of, and you see all different kind of shapes, you see different kind of uh but
yeah,
it's just there, right? And then Steve Jobs came out with iPhone, and then that just launched the entire industry to a different trajectory,
hmm,
with computers getting smaller and smaller. I think Moore's law, it's really stretched thin right now. I think there's
yeah,
a different law right now that they have been talking about. And if our audience doesn't know what a Moore's law is, that means you really need to go and study engineering, or Google it. And it's so interesting. And I so appreciate that you mentioned that this entire ecosystem of semiconductor industry. um, I feel like for our audience, maybe I understand that a lot of times we're like we invited a lot of engineers, and for the past few episodes, we've been talking with engineers all the time almost. And you yourself in this conversation, we're talking about engineering, but I don't think you need to limit yourself to being in engineering. I think you should look at industries as a whole, right?
Yeah.
There is semiconductor industry, there is food industry, there is healthcare industry, and if you look at industry at a bigger picture, then you figure out what the ecosystem is. Then you realize, hey, um, I can look into, I can put myself into, like you say, material engineering as well, like picking the right material for what to use. What's the next kind of material in semiconductor? I can look into supply chain. I recently talked to somebody who studied logistic, and he's been telling me that supply chain, like you cannot think of a proper large scale business without talking about
Yeah.
logistic being successful. So
Yeah.
logistic is such a huge flexible career that you can look into: supply chain and management, sales, customer service. So yeah, don't let your I think I might be teaching some of the students to talk back to their parents, right? Like, don't just focus on being an engineer. I think there's so many things that you can possibly look into. Sometimes in life, I think you're dealt with different cards. You just have different natural affinities for certain things, and you're naturally good at certain things. So don't limit yourself to certain um, subjects or certain courses. Yeah, allow your eyes to be open up a bit wider, and consider the vastness of the career options that you have. And so yeah, and I can really feel your excitement. So as you were sharing about semiconductor, I'm also feeling it, because yeah, like I mentioned, we're actually like working in a chain right now. our
Yeah.
our companies are working in tandem with one another, and this whole industry is really exciting. But I kind of have to throw a curveball here with you. You, like I mentioned just now, the time of Nokia and things are slowing down, and like that. Uh, do you think if somebody is going to step into, a study in university, pursuing something that is in the semiconductor industry, by the time they come out, how likely would it be that semiconductor industry it's already coming into a sunset, like how you felt about oil and gas? Would that happen? Do you think
Mhm.
that would be likely to happen?
Well, I think a quick and short, maybe straightforward answer for me. I don't think that will happen, right? Just looking at how this, um, maybe let me answer this by asking another question. Can anyone in our era now live a week without mobile phone, without internet?
Hmm. I can't. I feel uncomfortable without it for half an hour right now.
Yeah, me too, right? Like that's we can live without the keys. We can live without cars. We can call a Grab. We can we can survive without knowing how to cook, right? But we can order Grab for food. We can get a taxi online nowadays. We don't have to call. And what makes me anxious is when my mobile phone is getting out of battery. Than feeling hungry. There are a lot of things that you can do when you're hungry, but when your phone is out of battery, like if I'm driving, how do I get home? Like how do I route my way back? I need my Waze, I need my Google Map. So I think the way that we live has fundamentally changed from few decades ago, right? Um, Electronic devices has been in every aspect of our life. Um, and maybe for people that is outside of the semiconductor industry, it's very hard for them to relate. So it really depends on which part are you in the ecosystem. So uh, it's easy for consumers to see, to hold in their hands the iPhone, the Android phone that we're using. But when you think deeply into this, it's about the software, it's about the UI, UX, It's about battery management systems, telecommunication, radio frequency communication. It's about system engineering, manufacturing engineering. How do I manufacture iPhone in an affordable price range? And how do I build satellite communication? How do I build antenna route complementary technology? So that it makes for you to own a phone. Like the streaming channel that we have today, like this amazing technology. We can talk, with each other 600 kilometers away from each other, right? With no latency, literally, or very little latency. And all this, every part of this technology requires uh, digitization, or requires control over fundamentally how electrons flow. How do we um, generate, and how do we make use of all this? Um, so I think it's too big a system. Uh, I do think that the industry will continue to move forward. There will be innovation. So today, a lot of our technology is based on silicon. Uh, there are other type of semiconductors, right? So today, majority of wafer is based on silicon bare wafers. There are other materials that is being developed, that is being discussed. But I think fundamentally, the use of electronic devices will not change. So like we are not gonna throw away our phones and live how we used to live 30 years ago. The demand will always be there, but will there be more efficient, cost efficient, more abundant resources other than silicon? But today silicon is really abundant, right? Is there any other raw materials in the periodic table that can do this better, that are more efficient, that are cheaper? So it's more than just one, because there are a lot of materials that are more efficient than silicon, but they might not be easily available. They might not be so economic to handle, to refine, and to mass produce. And then if you look at uh, today, all these major manufacturers for electronic devices, they have already invested billions of money for the past decade, year after year, right? They already have this um, complementary assets to stably manufacture and produce all these outputs. So it's going to be very hard for that change to happen unless there's a radical disruptive force that fundamentally change how uh, we are living our life. So I think that's a very long answer, but I think in short, I don't think is going to be away, not in the next 5 years, in my opinion, 5 to 10 years time. It's going to be around, and also it's also about um, complementary skills, right? I don't know how to put this concisely, uh, but even if there's a change in the core materials, the mainstream core materials used in chips making, but the whole process flow is still going to be valuable, right? Um, yeah, it's not something that can be built overnight. So today, with the trade restrictions that US is posing, the tariffs, the bans of technology exports to China, and we know that China is very resourceful. They are willing to spend a lot of money into this, to pour into the industry, and we know China has been working on this very, very diligently for the past 5 to 10 years. But there is still, there's breakthroughs here and there, but I think it's still not in a position to compete directly. Um, so this tariffs and these bans are still causing some pain, right, to the Chinese economy, and for the whole technology um, domain. Um, yeah, so yeah, that I think I went too far, but I think coming back to the question, I think this is still gonna be a very competitive, a very um,
Resilient.
very resilient, very talent hungry industry.
That's true.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the things that we've been thinking in the industry right now would have been very unthinkable to the semiconductor industry engineers, back in maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I believe the next generation of engineers and people who are in the industry is going to just blow our minds moving forward. I think that the key, personally, the key difference between oil and gas industry and semiconductor industry is that oil and gas industry actually revolves around mining, mining of petroleums and natural resources, and I feel like the application has been quite mechanical in most natures, but semiconductor industry, it's more of an, I would say, very conceptual. Like basically, you want things to move, and there's so many ways of making that happen.
Hmm.
And so whatever that's applicable today, whatever that we can make use of today, I think in 10, 20 years time, something completely different would have, likely replaced how it works today. Already we are already talking about quantum computing. For
Yeah.
many years we've been talking
Yep.
about using different materials for battery, different power sources that we're talking, and it's still within the the semiconductor industry. And so yeah, I think even if someone asked me like if the industry would change, I agree with you. I think it's very unlikely, very very highly unlikely that it will move away too far from today. Yeah, so
Hmm.
I think it's still an industry worth looking into. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Um, Maybe we talked about, semiconductor industry, and you as a product manager. Um, I wonder how can we advise our students? How can we advise our audience to prepare to enter into the industry? What are some of the technical skills that they should acquire? Maybe something to more closer to home. What are some of the skills that you wish you have acquired in university as you enter into the industry? And yeah, what kind of networking you're looking at and things like that.
Hmm. Okay. I think before we talk into this, you mentioned about this particular industry is not just about engineering, right? Like
Mm,
there's the business aspects, there's commodity aspects, there's the planning, and there's different types of engineering. So I think from my experience, I cannot represent the whole. I think there are a lot of valuable jobs, a lot of roles that are very critical in making a certain company successful.
mm,
Because the fact that there are so many factors that affects our success. You may have the best technology or you may have the best product, but if you cannot manufacture that quickly and cost effectively, it's basically you have no product to sell, right? And even if you are able to manufacture that, but you cannot maintain it. Like if a customer purchase your equipment, I can only use it for a year, and I have a lot of problems. Like for 90% of the time that the tool is not productive, then the customer is going to lose faith in you and not going to come back. So it really depends on which role you are in, and what kind of complementary skills you can build for that. So speaking from my own perspective, as a field service engineer, we have to know how our product worked, right? And it's not just it's uh, how should I put it? It's like for a car, you step on the accelerator and then it moves, right? And then maybe when you were driving a manual, you need to learn how do I shift gears, and how do I release the throttle, and how do I step on the clutch and things like that. But for hardware equipment engineering, we deal with many systems. So typically in one of our product, we have robotic systems that precisely manage the transfer of wafers from different locations in our within our equipment, right? That's the robotic systems. We have vacuum systems, right? Because if you want deposition to happen, so I work on chemical deposition products within this uh, so in semiconductor, it is about like we take it as building houses, right? So you need to build things up, and you need to draw a blueprint, and you need to
Mm.
remove some material. So my
Yeah.
expertise is adding, is building up.
Mm.
um and this building of materials has to happen at a very strict environment where um there's no impurities. We need to have a high vacuum, at millitorr range. We need to control when a certain precursor comes into that environment. We need to control when to strike a plasma, when to ignite this RF powers, right, to help and to aid that reaction. So this gas delivery systems, this temperature control systems, this robotic systems, vacuum systems, this the software interactions between all these parts. How do I communicate? How does each part communicate? And how does the system know that everything's going on well? And when do we interrupt the process and tell it, oh, something might be wrong? How do we monitor this? So it's a very complicated product, right? And we're just talking about one single tool, and you typically have tens and hundreds of these tools in one manufacturing facility. And in Singapore, there are like probably 10, 12 of such facilities. Then we are talking about a huge database. So just coming from field service engineering perspective, uh, we need to learn our logical sequencing skills. How do we approach a problem?
Mm.
um, when I remember doing similar projects when I was doing my undergraduate studies. um, you are given a chip, right? You are giving a few resistors, a few displays, and you are supposed to wire them up. You are supposed to draw a circuit and put them on a breadboard, wire them up, and you are giving a task. When I press a button once, I want this LED to show up. I want this X-segment display to display a certain thing, right? And then when you put everything together and when you press and it doesn't happen what it is desire, how do you start to troubleshoot, right, from a simple system to a complicated system? I think that capability to have a logical flow, and how do I troubleshoot, this will lead to that, that will lead to that, and then what are some possible um, causes to a certain symptom. um, and I also think that uh, it's more than it's also more than just knowing mechanically or electronically how things work. Uh, uh, I think this will lead on to a very big conversation, very particular to what I used to do. But we have hardware engineers and process engineers, right? So process engineers look at just like they're cooking. If I want to cook a dish, I need to add in salt at a certain time, right? I cannot just put everything together and mix. It's not gonna taste nice. I want to
Mm.
make a perfect cake. I have to measure how much flour do I put in, how much sugar, how much salt, and
Mm.
when and what temperature. So they think about all these steps, and then hardware engineers can think about the one who maintains the oven, right? The oven is able to meet that temperature and to that. So to hardware engineers, I only think about if I want to set my temperature at 200 degrees Celsius, then as long as it meets 200 degrees Celsius, it's fine. But I think the hardware engineer and the process engineer have to work together to have a valuable product, and to have that product um, that's cost efficient to make. So as a hardware engineer, it's helpful for us to understand uh, how to make a cake. Why do we need to bake it in 200 degrees Celsius or 250 degrees Celsius? And if the temperature is lower than 200, what are you going to see? What are the symptoms? The cake is not going to hold in shape, or it's going to expand and look ugly, and is it going to affect the taste, right? Depending on who you speak to, right?
Mm.
If you are just making a cake at home, you probably don't care about how it looks. You care more about how it tastes. But if you're running a business, you want the cake to look better than, oh, I don't know, maybe they want it to taste better too, right? But look is definitely important, right? So I think it's same for us, right? I started as a field service engineer, but I wished I would know more about process engineering. So it kind of speaks sense to me. Why today when someone is telling me that, oh, okay, my heater is not able to meet the temperature, and I know what is the impact and what are the implications. Why is it important that that we need to meet a particular temperature set point?
Mm,
Why does it matters that our temperatures don't swing more than a tolerance, right? What kind of effects am I gonna have on my product, on my wafer, when this happens?
mm,
Uh, you know, I wish that I learn more about this and pay more attention during my studies, that I can better prepare. But then again, to be fair, right? When I was a student, I knew nothing about the industry.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
I when I started working, to be honest, the first 2 years, I barely knew what I was doing. Right, I was basically doing what my seniors told me to do, and along the way, I started to learn. Um, so I would say I think what you guys are doing, having this forum, having this um, people who have spent a certain amount of time in the industry to come and talk, and to have a very brief overview of how is it like working as an
Mm,
engineer. I think it helps. I hope that at least we kind of um, drive our juniors or the next
mm,
generation a little bit more into thinking, yes, you have your core competency, but they are complementary skills, they are complementary knowledges, that will help you in your future work. So whatever you learn I don't think it will go into waste. Somehow,
yeah.
or someday you're going to use it, and it's going to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for saying that, right? Because yeah, that is just um like you say, actually when we were studying, we have no knowledge whatsoever what the industry demands actually.
Hmm.
And but I think the universities are also working their best
Yeah.
to collaborate with the industry to really understand exactly what they need and try to craft and design their courses to best suit the need of the industry. But you will bound to have certain things that are not being covered within within a course. After all, you only have 4 years to pick up
Yeah.
all these basic skills. Some even 3 years to pick up all these basic skills before you step into the industry. And so yeah, pick all those information up, pick all those knowledge up as much as you can.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like um, I don't know if you agree with me. I feel like the key um, virtues I say would demand every student out there. I feel like it's humility, man. Like
Hmm.
you need to recognize that there will be bound. The more you know, the less you actually know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so when you step into the industry, um, I maybe you're not like this, but when I stepped into the industry, I felt like the top of the world, right? I know everything, I know what I'm doing, I have the best tools available to me. But I stepped into that role and realized, oh man, this is so much out of my head,
Yeah.
and and you just make mistake along the way,
Yeah.
and as you learn as well as you pick them up as well. So if and I think throughout the years it just polish you and keeps you humble, and it should drives you to actually hunger for more knowledge as you work in the industry. So yeah, um be ready, be the best at the subjects that you take. But above all, I think be humble, be ready to learn, and be ready to absorb all these things. So
Oh, I think that's the best advice.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, maybe one last advice for
Hmm.
parents. I feel like we need to address some of the parents that may be here today. Um, how can they support their children making an informed career choices, especially in the semiconductor industry? What would be something that you would say to them?
Mm. Um, I have a lot of friends who are not into this industry, so I spend a lot of time trying to explain to them what exactly I do. And I think the past hour just flew by like that, and we
Mm,
didn't even really very clearly articulate and address some of these segments, right? So I
mm,
think if we have audience who are interested in getting this industry, I would say I encourage you to do that, because this is a very rewarding, very exciting, and very important industry, and it has so many potentials, various different roles in different disciplines, right? We have spent enough time talking about those things. But I think for parents, it really helps if you are or engage more with your children, and to discuss with them like what do they really want, right, for their future career. Because we talk about all the good things about this, but this industry, because it's highly competitive, because it has a very strong impact to economies, and at the same time, we don't want to sugarcoat it, right? It is a difficult, it's a very challenging industry. It is not going to be uh, you know for my first 5 years, I worked more than, I think, 16 hours in a day is a norm. And what you put in is going to be beneficial as well, because all these things that I have learned, the point I'm trying to make is you might be spending a lot of time, and you might not get the rightful rewards
Ooh, yeah.
ratio of the amount of efforts that you
Such,
put in during that time. But
yeah.
eventually, I think you're gonna get it back, right? Eventually, all the efforts that you put in, I think that you're gonna get rewarded one way or another. Might not be monetarily, right? Might be the networks that you have made,
Mm,
might be the impression that you have left, right? Which could open up doors for you. So this can be very complicated. But I think what really will be helpful is if the parents could spend time telling the children, right? In reality, just tell them how do you work and how do you feel, and 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 what could you have done better for whatever job that you're doing, right? Just have that relationship with your children and understand what do they really want.
mm,
Because I think, I believe nothing comes by free. If you don't want to invest your time or your efforts, uh, you might be successful momentarily, but it's not going to be a lasting success. It's not going to be um, it's not going to be beneficial to you in the long term. So we have uh, to just spend some time
mm,
talking to them. And if you are like really interested in the seminar, there are a lot of resources online. I think in LinkedIn, they may not be very technical, not very in there, but I think it will help you. Business review papers. If you read from the news, I think semiconductor has been a big part of the news nowadays. You kind of understand the dynamics, the driving forces,
mm,
uh, in a very high level. So that helps you to determine, are you interested to invest more time to read into more nitty gritty details,
mm.
and to have a better understanding, and you can always try to get connected with your professors. I believe a lot of the university in Malaysia and in Singapore, the professors are quite connected with the industry, so they know what is going on,
Mm.
and I think they have. I think that there are people who are willing to talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So the engagement, I think, is the best that you can do. Is I wouldn't think that is one particular area that I'm gonna tell you, okay, do this, learn electrical engineering, learn mechanical engineering, or this is what I did and I was successful and you're gonna be successful. Yeah, I think the best present, or the most helpful thing you can do is being there with them as a parent. I'm a parent myself. I think that's something I'm trying to learn too. Listen to what they want, try to understand, and try to point them to the right person. Try them to
Mm.
get them to the right resources.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. You heard it here, parents, and children as well. When you're right now at the crossroad of your life, you're making the important decision, and university life is indeed a very pivotal one. It's
Yeah.
important to have conversations. I know of children who are in really tense relationship with their parents simply because they are in this situation. But it's very important that you hear each other out, have this conversation, and I think as parents, your experience has something to offer to them. At the same time, I think, yeah, like what Zach has shared with us, listen to what their desires are, and really help to guide them through this entire process.
Mm.
And this is what Arrows Education can help you as well as a parent. Well, we like to give you all the information that you can have. We aggregate all this information in the industry. We also helps you to put together any information that you might need of a certain country, of a certain university, and we would like to help you with this process. So do reach out to us, even though you are a parent. Come reach out to us, and we let us help you manage all this information so that you can help your children make better informed decision about this very crucial part of their life. And with this, this would be the end of our episode of Professional Roundtable today. We'd like to thank Zach for being with us today and
Thank
appreciate that
you
so
for
much.
having
Yeah,
me.
yeah, your insight into the industry has been really, really helpful. So continue to follow us on our social media, subscribe, and like our videos, and share this video out, and reach out to us, and let us help you take a big step into realizing your dream of studying abroad. All right, with this, goodbye and have a good night.